Chapter 52, Nightslashers, come out and play, yay. "Nicky!" screamed out Michael as he rode into the park. It was now midnight, and knowing where he was and dreading the horror of what he and Nicky were both getting themselves into, Michael found himself riding around half the range, feeling lesser and lesser of himself as the woods came scraping on by. The moon was now close enough to where one could possibly stand on top of the Empire State Building and touch it, one's own fingertips. Michael continued riding fast like a madman, unable to make half sense out of anything, as more and more of his thoughts broke away into sheer dread, and Michael now found himself lesser, going into animal mode. Where the hell is she? Where the hell is she? Where the hell is she? Thought Michael, panic-stricken and unable to consolidate his actions with rational human thoughts, for at any corner a Nightslasher could have been standing by, ready to deal with him, and Michael felt better left that animal mode, so he would be able to deal with them as violently as needed. "Hey!" screamed out Michael, but to no response. "Hey, you there?" screamed out Michael again. As he then realized he was practically doing so with imaginary figures he was only really seeing in his head. Ride, and then something his eyes would catch from the corner of a tree. But it was just more of the tree, or was it? Michael could no longer tell, for he had ridden right past it already. After entertaining all the lurking, malevolent spirits in his head for a good while, imagining all that crap at every corner. "Alright, enough. I don't see anyone." Michael then stopped and paused for a while to take in his surroundings properly, and not confuse it with the one he was building up in his own horrors. Michael had already ridden far enough to where he could only barely hear the shootout continuing behind him. The police had decided to forget about him, and so had the Iron Monkeys, since seeing him ride further into the woods. And as for Nicky, she's either here in the park, in the police custody, or in the custody of them, the fucking freaks that live in these woods. As for her, Michael only dread, and it was now Michael felt like continuing on searching. For as long as she could be here, he had to. Michael didn't feel right by any of this. It wasn't just being in Central Park at this time of night that left him feeling lost and forgetful. Michael had just a moment ago got Nicky back into his life, and he was now feeling the loss of her again. No. It can't end like this. Not here, not like this, thought Michael, thinking about Nicky. But then, of her, the lady, and cringed with a whole new set of thoughts. What the fuck have you gotten yourself into, lady? What the fuck have you gotten Nicky into, lady? As he really started seeing them now as two different people. First batshit crazy CIA operatives, and now cloaked, scythe-wielding, deranged psychopaths. Even though it had probably been some 10 minutes ago since entering the park, it felt like a lot more time had passed, hours upon hours even. I got to have gotten their attention by now. I just about circled the entire park twice. But considering the state he had been in, circling around like a chicken with its head cut off, there was no telling what thread he had made. Still, by now, they had to have taken notice of me if they're even here. Michael began to imagine that they might have even been hiding in the trees above, waiting for the moment to strike. Michael now found himself afraid to look up. Michael knew if he couldn't find Nicky, he had to at least find them and deal with them personally. He couldn't take a chance to go back to the shootout to see if he had missed her there. And neither could he take the chance and leave now for Harlem. If Nicky was in this park or had already been captured by the Nightslashers, every second counted on Michael finding them before it was too late. "Nightslashers!" screamed out Michael, but not a sound could be heard, not even the sound of ruffling branches nor leaves on a tree. And the fact that there was still a wind blowing in from the east, setting all the scenery into motion around him, made no sense considering how silent everything still was. This was now becoming a very otherworldly experience for Michael. "Nightslashers! What the fuck are you guys, huh? Come on! My name is Michael Connelly. I want to see just how scary you gremlins really are." "Oh, fuck. For fuck's sakes, why did I give them my name? Nikki, honey, baby, please, talk to me. Tell me, fuck. Now they know I'm looking for someone. If they hadn't found her yet, they know at least now that she's here. Michael's mind was beginning to go into every which way direction as he thought about what it meant that he hadn't found neither Nikki nor the Nightslashers yet. There was a possibility that she could still be in the possession of the Kalashnikov she had back at 1999. If she was, chances were at least good that she might be able to defend herself then, if the Nightslashers decided to swarm in after her. Of course, if they did, Michael would have now heard the shots being fired. So had they or hadn't they? Michael then thought about searching his pockets for a cord. Are you fucking kidding me? Superstitious fucking nuts. And then just about felt like smacking himself silly at the thought of turning superstitious at a time like this. The fact that Michael had yet to hear the shots could either mean A, they hadn't found her yet, B, she was no longer in possession of the Kalashnikov, C, they had gotten to her before she was even able to fire off a single round. And that there was just one group of scenarios. Another group of scenarios could have been based on the fact that Michael had not yet heard from Nikki, and even though he had already spent some time riding around calling out for any signs of life, why hadn't she responded yet? This could also either mean A, they had her, B, she hadn't heard Michael yet, C, she wasn't willing to give away her location by calling back. Then again, if she had heard Michael but didn't want to give away her location, she still could have traced his voice back to him. Then again, she might be back at the shootout. Then again, she might even be in Harlem by now. Then again, she might be someplace completely different. Then again, she might be in police custody. Then again, she might be in the custody. Oh, you fucking assholes. I'm gonna murder a lot of you. Nothing. I have a gun and I will not hesitate to use it. No sound but the sound of silence. Michael sighed as he looked down at his rosary and decided to do it again. Another major problem was there was hardly any illumination. There were no lights in the park, and whatever lights that used to be on at these hours had all been smashed up by to keep the park as scary as possible. Plus, ever since the Nightslashers had moved in, the city felt like there was no point in wasting electricity anymore in the parks, so nothing was done about any of the lights that had been busted. And now, the only illumination from the park came from the lights of the city around it. That, and the moonlight shining in from above. It had to be past midnight by now, and the woods of the park was saturated with somber blue. It seemed hazy, like a fog had settled in, yet hadn't, and Michael could barely even see 10 feet in front of him. Ever spent an entire night awake, in bed, trying to sleep, but unable to even catch a wink of it? Ever been through that, and had spent the entire time just looking at things all around as your mind started playing tricks on you? It started having you imagine things to be there that weren't there, but you sure felt as if though they were. Like staring at a statue long enough, so long you start to imagine that thing to be slowly moving, mostly slowly trying to turn its head around to start staring back at you. Well, yeah, that's the feeling of being here, except you ain't in your familiar bed in your familiar bedroom, in a place you feel would at least be safe. Michael again stopped. He didn't feel like riding around anymore. He felt now he needed to stay still for a while and listen. Listen for even the faintest sound that could be made at the moment's notice. After everything, what's to come next? What do I have to expect now that I don't know what to do? And I don't know if doing anything will do anything at all. Michael sighed and started to think about Nikki again, and then allowed his mind to continue thinking about that other woman, that lady. Like, how is it spending an entire night awake? Eventually your thoughts are going to cover everything and everything. It can and will and would, should and also shouldn't. Michael again began wondering how Nikki must have become her. What made her into the woman most knew her as now. Michael began thinking about stuff he had desperately been trying to avoid delving into. Fuck you, Gabe, for trying to tell me that she isn't worth it. Don't let her manipulate you like she used to, you said, practically calling me pussy whip. Because I'm putting myself through all this for her, you think you got me figured, huh? Well, there's one thing you don't know about me. I'm glad that I'm doing all this for her, even though we haven't seen each other in years. I'm glad. She's not worth it? Fuck you. I'm a piece of shit and I'm not worth it. And now I feel like I like it that way. And you know why? Because all night long I've been out for me. Just me and numero uno here. Nobody else. I've done nothing but gone through hoops and bounds and hurdles, all for me and my fat ego. I've been very unrighteous. I've done nothing but blow up my pride just to feel worthy of something. And even after all the work, all the back-breaking work I put into it, none of it has amounted to squat. It's all been in vain. I mean, doesn't it always end this way? When you're only doing everything just for yourself and no one else, being unrighteous? Why the fuck did you go all that way, rat boy? Justice? A fool's justice, more like it. Heading out with your dumbass self to right some wrong when no wrong has been committed. And you end up actually committing a wrong, but punishing the innocent while thinking you're doing what's right. In the end, none of it mattered. And the fucked up part is I knew it from the start. I kept trying to deny that report. And look where that all got me. I thought I was worth it. At least. Life owed me this. Life fucking owed me. After all those wasted years in prison, life owed me. And look at what happened. That's what happens when you give yourself too much worth to tip the scales and then try to balance it out by creating a lot of bullshit in your mind and what the world owes you. Shit. I've been feeling this way for years now, too. I'm such a pompous prick and now I'm a murderer. And worst part is, it wasn't even his fault to begin with. Wanting justice. It was all nothing but hot air that dissipated once the balloon popped. Only good I've felt tonight has been helping Nikki, helping LaToya, and beating the fuck out of assholes that I found to have deserved it. That's what it used to mean. Me being my old self. Not being this new one that's done nothing but been a big baby about things. Shit. Nah. My old self was much better person. Much more deserving, if anything. And maybe that's why my life now feels like it's on the can. Ready to get shit out and flushed down the tubes. Because I just don't deserve a better life anymore. Michael now really soared up, thinking that way. Soared up really badly. And almost felt like shedding tears. Well, I would have, but I forgot now to cry. A long time ago. Well, at least now, whatever I'm doing, it's not just for me anymore. It's all for her. And yeah, I would die for her. I would. I mean, I was willing to die for much less. Of course, now I'd be. But then Michael thought something else. After all he was willing to do with her, and still planning on doing, would she appreciate it? Would that lady appreciate it? Or would she abandon him the first second she'd get? And the horror of that shot straight into Michael and paralyzed him to the bone. No. Fuck you. She wouldn't do that. She's not that type of person. She'd now still be willing to be careful. No, she'd now still be willing to care about me like she used to back when we were together. I feel it. I felt it. I did. I felt the magic. Our old connection. Our old touch. Really, Michael? Magic? Fuck you. Seriously, go fuck yourself. These are things I know. I know because I felt it. Because I feel it. You know because you feel it? Yeah, I know how that... Fuck you. So, Michael, since you know things because you feel them, besides that whole transcendent shit between you and her, what other feelings are you also holding on to that you're now trying to deny yourself of? Go fuck yourself. No, really, after everything, after all that you denied yourself of, dealing with that report, what are you? No, she's nothing like that Flores girl. She wouldn't now just want me to do things for her just so she can use me. She's Simple fact was, as Michael had known for years about that report and had denied himself to fully acknowledge it for obvious selfish reasons, for even longer than that, Michael had also always known something about Nikki, something so obvious that he hadn't been willing to fully acknowledge until now. Fine, she's always been somewhat of a lizard herself. One of those lizard people, two-faced, but then Michael thought of her. How many more years am I going to wonder about that woman? How many more? For the rest of my life? For the rest of my life? I don't know. And I feel like maybe I should move on and stop caring. She's dead. That woman is dead. She got herself killed, abandoned me, my dad, and did it all for her own selfish reasons. I don't want to spend the rest of my life. But Michael knew damn well he was going to. And definitely for the rest of my life. Michael now allowed himself to go over it again. He had now been waiting there, still alone in the dark, and for a while, watching inanimate objects slowly become animate, grow eyes, and begin to watch him back. And as he did, he allowed old wounds to open up again, just to see how he'd feel about them now. Just to see if he'd feel about them now different. Now that there was a new light to see things differently in. So he said there was something crazy in her. Something that had always been there, just beneath the surface. That's what he had said, my dad, when speaking about her. Something always, and I remember him saying always. Pondering over the whole always part, Michael then remembered. My dad also did say, as if she was another lady. Shit. Now going back to Nikki, seeing as how manipulative, vicious, and intimidating Nikki had seemed at 1999 before he saw her without the mask, made Michael begin to wonder if these were traits she had adopted over time, or were they traits that were always there just beneath the surface. Sometimes masks don't represent someone you're not. Sometimes they represent who you truly are. And the real face you carry happens to be the real mask. And then Michael now began to allow himself to remember how they had met. Shit. Shirley was never that innocent to begin with, was she?